Hey, we don't own any of this shit. Squad.
Star Wars The Clone Wars is objectively the best Star Wars. Period. In hindsight, it isn't too surprising that an interlude TV series would turn out to surpass the films. It's been in development since 2003, so George Lucas and his team had plenty of time to look back at what worked and what didn't in the films when creating this new series. I find serialized television as another medium which conveys novel-length stories into seasons, with each chapter being represented as an episode. When given a room full of fellow writers and editors, not just yes men, Mr. Lucas' storytelling abilities arise. The Clone Wars serves as a crucial piece to the Star Wars puzzle, fully realizing the prequel's complex ideas in the delicately written pages that comprise each chapter. I'm only in the 4th season, and Star Wars feels more real in this animation than it did in any of the films. Glaring issues, such as the romance between Anakin and Padme, are rectified here. Last week my brother Vaughn made a video about how you were wrong about the Star Wars prequels, and their significance to the franchise. This video is a bit of a follow-up to that, as having respect for what the prequels did right is crucial when going into the Clone Wars. I recommend you check out his video before watching this one. From how I take it, Mr. Lucas had all these grand ideas for the prequels, but failed to properly condense these ideas into a movie format. My name is Cy Cross, writer and cartoon enthusiast, and in this episode, we'll be looking into the negative effects of colonization. As we progress, think about how real historic events are paralleled in their fantastic political allegory known as Star Wars. You ready to get started? Question mark. This week, we'll be analyzing some of my favorite episodes from Season 1. First up is Jedi Crash, written by Mr. Lucas' goddaughter, Katie Lucas. In this episode, Anakin gets her on a mission with his lovable Padawan, Ahsoka, to rescue Jedi General Alia. After a fight, their ship crashes onto an unknown planet. While they survive the crash, Anakin's life is now in critical condition, leaving Ahsoka and Alia no choice but to search for help. I'm consistently surprised by how much tension the Clone Wars has, despite the fact that its events have a foregone conclusion. We know Anakin will survive, but we don't know how he will survive. Ahsoka and Alia eventually encounter the planet's native species, a race known as Lurmen. They are a wannabe neutral race in the war between the Alliance and the Separatists led by head honcho T-Wat-Ka. He initially refuses to help the Jedi in an effort to maintain their neutrality, but when Ahsoka pleads for medical assistance to heal her master, T-Wat sends his son Wag-2 to heal him. Alia stays in the village with T-Wat while Ahsoka, Wag-2, and some clones head back to tend to Anakin's injuries. T-Wat starts roasting the Jedi on their hypocritical philosophies, pointing out how they claim to want peace, yet use the exact same violent methods as the droids do. Alia retorts that they weren't the ones to start the war, but that doesn't interest T-Wat. He insists that whoever instigated the war is irrelevant. The only path to peace is for both sides to lay down their arms. T-Wat is undeniably right, but only to an extent. It makes perfect sense why he would be reluctant to help the Jedi. After all, whether the Jedi know it or not, they're merely pawns on Senator Palpatine's chessboard. If T-Wat were to sign a treaty with the Republic, he would put his city at risk of being controlled by the galactic government. Under the guise of supervision, the future Emperor could keep an eye on the planet's resources and obtain them from the Lurmen. Remind you of anything? If not, then the droids Palpatine manufactured in secret would simply eradicate them. T-Wat is right to question the Jedi's intentions, but what he fundamentally does not understand is that you can't expect a hostile enemy to want peace as much as you do. We all know that might does not make right, but inversely, being right doesn't give one might either. Whether they like it or not, the Lurmen will eventually have to get their hands dirty to protect themselves. In the follow-up episode, Defenders of Peace, writer Bill Canterbury pushes T-Wat-Ka to his limit. Although Wag-2 manages to heal Anakin, droids are eventually drawn to the Lurmen's village thanks to the Jedi's presence. When they create a super weapon capable of destroying organic life while leaving non-organic life undamaged, Count Dooku orders Separatist General Luke to test it out on the Lurmen. The Jedi witness this weapon in action and urge T-Wat to put in work against the Separatists, but T-Wat rejects this notion. T-Wat is like, fuck no fam. Even in the face of merciless cold steel, he refuses to see violence as an option. He'd rather die than let himself be dragged down to the enemy's level.
We need to get you to safety before they arrive.
We will not abandon our homes.
But they've got a new weapon. It'll burn this place to a crisp. Is this what all of you really want?
If it is our destiny to be destroyed in your war, so be it.
Ahsoka wants to help, but initially respects T-Wat's decision and makes to leave. Anakin, however, says that there's a difference between pulling innocents into a war and leaving them to extinction. While brash, overbearing, and cocky, there is no denying how much Anakin cares about people. Padme's seemingly random attraction to him in the films finally starts to make some sense. To think that a children's cartoon will make me feel for a child-slaying serial killer. This ain't just for kids indeed. Wag 2 knows his pops is tripping, so he urges his fellow citizens to take charge and help the Jedi fend off the droids. What I love the most about this two-parter is how it treated T-Wat's persona. It would have been easy to have him as an incorruptible saint that does no wrong, but Ms. Lucas and Mr. Canterbury treat his character like a person rather than a magical Negro alien. T-Wat is a fundamentally good person, but he's good to a fault. He was so unwilling to compromise his morals that he was going to sacrifice the lives of his entire village and son. Seeing as how he thanked the Jedi at the end of the episode rather than condemning them, he appears to have seen the error of his ways. In the next episode of the series, Trespass, co-written by Stephen Melching, Scott Murphy, and Henry Gilroy, Obi-Wan and Anakin investigate the disappearance of a clone security post on a Republic-controlled planet. It turns out the Republic made a base there, not knowing that the planet was already in the hands of a primitive but intelligent race known as the TAS. Our heroes discover that this race is responsible for the clone's disappearance in retaliation for the Republic's invasion. What follows is a sci-fi version of the Native American conflict in the US. It's almost impossible to watch this episode without noticing the analogy, especially when Republic Chairman Chicho refers to the TAS as savages.
Stumbled onto an inhabited planet.
Impossible. Our explorers have spent much time here over the long history of Pantora. No one lives here. They're trespassers.
With respect, Chairman Cho, these creatures, the Talls, aren't advanced enough to master space travel. I think they may have been here longer than Pantora.
Whoever they are, they belong to us. This whole system belongs to us.
Your Majesty, if there are life forms here, then the Senate must decide jurisdiction.
They are savages. Look at what they've done. They've slaughtered your troops.
They only want to be left alone.
Chicho is the epitome of how one's inflated ego could destroy a diplomatic relationship with potential allies, easily justifying the hellbent rage of the TAS. Remind you of anything? In a span of 3 episodes, we see 2 unrelated characters with polarizing philosophical ideologies clash on a thematic level. On one hand, we have the pacifist T-Wat, who refused to engage in violence to protect his own kind, but ultimately realized the importance of compromising your own beliefs for the greater good. On the other hand, General Fuckface prioritizes violence in his own selfish quest for power, and his unwillingness to seek diplomatic relations with the indigenous tribe ultimately leads to his untimely fate. This video alone doesn't do the series justice. If you have even the slightest interest in Star Wars, this series is a must-watch. Period. Watch this shit, like goddamn it. Before we close out, I wanted to talk about my upcoming novel, Nina and Minerva. It's a tale about 2 women who fall in love after an alien invasion. If this interests you, be sure to check out the description below. Shouts out to all of you for liking and sharing this video without me even asking you to. Thanks for watching.